Welcome to Gutsy Talks. I'm Rachel Larson, your host, naturopath, and nutritionist, and I'm here to have real, honest conversations that can help you heal your gut, calm your mind, and fall back in love with food. Together with leading health experts, we'll dive into all things gut health and explore the deep connections between your gut and overall well-being, so you can feel empowered to take control of your health and live your best life. If you love all things gut health, follow me for more on Instagram at rachel.larson or head to rachellarson.com.au. Now, let's get into today's episode. I'm thrilled to welcome Natasha Mason, a powerhouse in the world of Vedic meditation. Tash is not only a meditation teacher, she's a mother, healer, and passion educator. Alongside teaching Vedic meditation, she's an Ayurvedic Postpartum Doula, a Reiki healer, a trained mental health first aider, and if that's not enough, she spent the last 12 years as the Director of Nourish Melbourne. Inspired by her own meditation practice, Tasha's mission is simple but powerful: to help others ignite a sense of purpose, passion, and self-compassion in their lives. So whether you're curious about meditation, looking to reconnect with yourself, or just need a little dose of calm, you're in the right place. So welcome, Tash. It's so great to have you here.
Hi, Rach. Good to connect with you again.
Yeah, it's been a
Yes.
while, but I guess I'm always following you on your socials and seeing what you're up to, and I'm really excited to have you here. And we were obviously just off record. We were kind of talking about all of these amazing things that we're going to get into about meditation, and I couldn't think of anyone better to speak about such an important topic.
Yeah, thanks for having me. And I love to talk about meditation because, first and foremost, it's been so impactful in my life and
Mm.
because of the direct experience I've had. So the fun thing, I love talking about it, but it can be so hard. It's something that meditation is, it can be difficult to convey about what it really feels like to have this practice in your life.
Yeah.
But I'll do my best in terms of, how it's, changed not only my outlook on life, but all the way down to the physiological, which is something you're very much dealing with in the everyday
Yeah,
with your clients and
absolutely.
patients and trying to bring balance to the body. But so I will do my best, and I know you've had experience in meditation yourself,
Yes, yeah.
so we can bring that in as well.
Oh, definitely. And look, no pressure on you, Tash. You're not here to solve all the problems, but I'm sure you'll be a very helpful step along the way for many people that are listening.
Yeah, I
Um,
hope so.
and
Mm.
you've touched on it just then, but really, I want to hear from you as much as you're open and willing to share in terms of what led you to the world of meditation.
Yeah, good question. It was, as you mentioned in the lovely intro you gave, I was running Nourish Melbourne for 12 years. I only really wrapped that up last year, being 2024. And in that time, especially in the very early days, I was, well-being as a whole was always a big part of just me and wanting to, live my healthiest life because of a lot of my story is, having watched my parents go through their illnesses from a very young age. And in fact, for my mother, that was 27 years,
Mm.
and I was 8, 9 when all of this started to unravel. So for me, to be well, I really saw the message from then
Yeah,
on. Like if you don't have your health, then
yeah,
everything else just falls away and the quality of life disappears.
yeah.
And so with Nourish Melbourne, which came as a I'm not working corporate for the rest of my life. Let's do something. Boom, it all changed,
Yeah.
left the corporate world and started that. And it was about bringing awareness to lots of different ways of well-being that we can incorporate into our life, from the
Mm.
physical, the mental, the emotional, and the spiritual. That
Mm.
came a bit later, I must say, through meditation. But going back in that, that's where it opened up for me at that point. Meditation, it wasn't part of my daily practice. It
Mm.
wasn't something, it was out there in the periphery.
Yeah.
But through people I met, which was part of what Nourish Melbourne was meeting different people. What do you do? How does this benefit you? Was meeting meditation teachers or in one instance being part of the Smiling Mind app, which many of you might know, which is huge now and doing a lot of great things in terms of education for young people and
Mm.
bringing mindfulness into the school curriculum. I was involved working with them in their initial stages of setting up, and so like, oh, meditation, and then some other monthly meditation challenges came up with great meditation teachers, and you think, oh, purely from the what I was reading and that kind of input of the knowledge side of it, I was like, this sounds like a good thing to do.
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
I should give it a go. And I did. And I'm doing this month meditation challenge. I'll sit down every day, 5 minutes and give it a go. And I found it so hard.
Oh.
I really had no anchor. It was just that I had to tick off this 5 minutes a day. And I didn't really have a technique. It was just kind of sitting, eyes closed, maybe focusing on my breathing a bit. Anyway,
Mm.
that was it. That was my very first introduction. But so for me, the knowledge side of it was very strong. I read about it a lot. It was that, well, you'd read about the successful entrepreneur who wakes up at 5 and must meditate. Oh gosh, all these people meditating.
Yeah.
Okay, it seems to be an important part of setting up your day and being resilient and adaptable to all the things that being an entrepreneur brings, right?
And being a human. Yeah.
And down in human and life and then family and
Yeah.
and so that just built in awareness. And then there was the point where it was a very strong message internally that I heard. It's like I think this needs to become something more, I don't want to say concrete, but foundational in my well-being practices.
Mm.
And when I set out that intention, there's a saying, when the student is ready, the teacher appears. And it was literally like that. I mean, that's a whole nother story, but it was like that teacher appeared. I was like,
Mm.
oh, and I knew of this person, by the way, for a while, for a whole year, from which I remember she would say, you should come and learn. I'd be like, oh, yeah, 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 I'll do that thing. And I get it now as a meditation teacher, hear it all the time. Oh, yeah, yeah. Anyway, I'm really interested in you and what you do, but I'm like, come and meditate because I
Yeah.
can't really give you more until you have the experience. But it came, we have to arrive at that point where we're ready. I'm
Mm.
glad in my case it wasn't something, I guess, serious or traumatic that brought me there because it's the unfortunate thing that for many people, something bad has to happen.
Feels like a crisis moment.
Okay, I've been ignoring myself. But
Yeah.
look, for me, it was a nice, effortless way of there's the teacher, you're ready. Go
Mm.
and actually learn from a human being
Yeah.
who can give you a tool. In this case, I learned Vedic meditation. It'll be 10 years this year from
Mm.
the day that I learned. And that was it. It was the biggest and greatest gift that I decided to give myself by far. I can't even put a price on it. And here we are. Who knew? I wouldn't have thought at that point, in
Mm.
10 years from that point, that I'd be sitting here talking about Vedic meditation as on a podcast. So, that's it. A new door opened, really.
Yeah.
Big one.
And you might find that there might be someone listening today that is also maybe taking their first steps. And I think what you mentioned about having all of these signs and sometimes not so obvious signs, people say, come and meditate. And, for you to, for the timing to be right. And I think of my sister, which I remember saying it to her about yoga. I was like, I think yoga would be great for you. I think yoga would be great for you. And I think it was years of me telling her that. And at one point, maybe she heard it from someone else, but she went and did yoga and she's like, this is great. And I was like, you're ready. Like it's just, you have to hear it a certain amount of time. So I think that will resonate with a lot of people today that are listening.
Yes, I must just pop in there and
Yeah.
say, yes, if you've got those seeds planted, you're using an app or something, or just you have your awareness loosely tied to it. That is amazing because that is how then the interest grows. And then it could be that point where you say, look, I really want to make this a commitment and a
Yeah.
part of my well-being. and with the knowledge that you gather, eventually that comes. But yes, like you said with your sister in her case, going and experiencing then yoga, it's like, oh,
Yeah, I get it. So I guess now the question is, it sounds like people would assume that they know the answer, but I want you to tell me, what does it mean to meditate?
what does it mean?
Yeah, what does it mean?
What's to let go of all the demands and
Mm.
all the things that pull you in all the directions that they do, family, life, work, your own mind,
Mm.
and to dedicate, and even I like to use the word
Hmm.
devotion, devote time to you,
Yeah.
to see yourself as the most important person in your life,
Mm.
even above, I have children, but I still, you know, could for some, might be controversial, I don't know. But for me, I'm first,
Yeah.
and then it's my relationship with my husband, or for whoever's listening, it's your partner or maybe someone you co-parent with. If it's no one, again, that's you, and then the children,
Mm.
because everything you do trickles down to them.
Yeah.
But it means to devote that time to you, to see yourself as the most important person
Mm.
every single day. And when you make that choice, everything around you will work in your favor to support your life flowing
Mm.
in a more effortless way,
Yeah.
less dramatic way,
I I think that's a great
putting yourself
explanation.
first.
Yeah, I think that is, and I have a meditation practice, and I don't have kids yet, hopefully one day, but I also think it's a time where, because, outside of our lives, we might be, yeah, attending to children. We might be showing up to work, and yes, it's our work, but it could be for someone else, or you're seeing patients, so it's for them, and all those types of things. So to really dedicate that time for yourself, that makes sense. And I think I want to clear up as well, the difference between meditation and mindfulness. Because I think some people may use them interchangeably. I feel like I understand that there is a difference and I see how that's different in my life. But yeah, tell me about the difference between meditation and mindfulness and if there is actually a difference.
Yeah, there is a difference.
Mm.
Essentially, it is that mindfulness is a byproduct and a result of meditation.
Mm.
Mindfulness is when we bring our full awareness to whatever is asking of our attention at any given moment.
Mm. Mm.
What's in front of us?
Yep.
Again, as a mother, I'm just going to use this example and I'll
Yep.
use another one for those who don't have children. But as a mother, okay, child is in front of you.
Yep.
I'm asking, play with me,
Yep.
do something with me. Me not being mindful is like pick up my phone. Da, da, da. Oh, hang on. Yes, I'll be there in a moment. I must, get on Instagram and see
Yep.
what's going on. Being mindful is fully hearing the child and listening and saying, "Yep, I'm here with you."
Mm. I think we speak about mindfulness even in the form of like related to gut eating. There's mindful eating, whereas there's that dedication to that task of eating as opposed to answering the emails. And again, I think kids is a great example of where you do have maybe people tugging at your dress or your pants and saying like, Mom, I need this or whatever. But I think eating as best as we can do when you're at work, like shut the laptop, go sit under a tree and have your lunch. It's about putting focus into that task.
Yes,
I think that makes sense.
you use the perfect example because that was what I was going to use as the non-children related one was the thing we do, well, that three times more times a
However
day
many times.
is eat. And
Yeah.
I've heard it before from some well-known Ayurvedic doctors and teachers out there that the biggest thing with food, and I'm sure you will agree, is that we don't even take time to chew properly.
Nope. Not at all.
Chewing,
Mm.
chewing food. And that
Yeah.
happens because we're in a rush, because we aren't being mindful, we aren't
Mm,
being present and attentive to the need of that precise time, which is to eat properly. Our
yeah.
mind is, oh my gosh, I've got all this stuff to do. I've just got to
Yep.
eat, go do the things.
Yep. Absolutely. And I see in my clinic that working with gut patients so closely that they could have the perfect diet, whatever that means, and their eating habits is actually the barrier to them feeling a difference in their gut is because they're chewing 3 times and swallowing massive chunks versus chewing 20 times and having smaller pieces and that actually being, how their digestion can work better. So mindfulness and meditation, I think that's quite clear to people in terms of what the difference is. And I guess going back to meditation now, are there signs that we experience or feel in our body or in our day to day that suggest that we need to be meditating?
Mm. You know what
You're like
else?
everything moving.
Everything and everyone needs to do it.
That's the sign, people.
I can talk more about why. Yes, of course, I'm going to sit here because, oh, I teach meditation. No, but
Yeah,
why?
tell us the why. Like, tell us what are the signs? Why do we need to do it? Yeah, like, because people might be thinking, I don't need to meditate because
Well,
whatever reason they come up
that's a
with.
good one. That
Yeah.
yeah, that comes up.
Yep.
That was my husband for a long time.
You wore them down. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah. No, I said I never, yeah, look, that's another story. Probably not so much to do with food, but more
Sure.
around relationship wise. And
Yeah.
um, but the signs are, for especially that I know I've heard it many times. I don't
Yeah.
need to meditate.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm that person, I can stay up till midnight and 1 and I get up at 6 and I'm good. I'm like, okay. The thing is, it's like if you think a good visual is thinking of, those little snow globes,
Mm-hmm.
domes,
Yep.
and when they're just sitting in the shop and or sitting on the shelf, or you see them wherever you first see it, say you go and buy one, and or you see them in a store and they're just sitting there and everything's good. You can't see the liquid is clear inside of the dome, but we know on the bottom there's like, oh, that's a snow globe, and there's all the little bits.
Yeah.
And and you're like, oh, everything's good here. It's a bit like the person who says everything's good. It's like the water at the top and the liquid, it's all clear,
Mm.
but then someone picks it up
Shakes it.
and what do we see?
Yeah.
Like all those little bits fill that little globe. And before you know it, we can't, and it looks beautiful, which is nice. That's why I used a snow globe, snow example. But we see that that clear liquid is now being filled
Mm.
with all of those little pieces that were sitting at the bottom that hadn't been moved around.
Mm.
That, in essence, is the person that says, I don't need to meditate. I don't need to do anything. We're all carrying the
Yeah.
impact and load of stresses and demands that have lodged themselves in our physiology over
Yeah.
time from the point we were children, depending on the events of your childhood. It could be more for some, maybe not so much, but the pressures of being a teenager, the pressures of being an adult, of making an income, of living in
Having
your
relationships,
20s,
working, yeah, or
all of
everything.
it.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
there.
Mm.
But we have these coping mechanisms that we think help us by, you know, let's go out on the weekend and relax by drinking, or
Yeah.
let's, whatever it is we do, or I'm going to stay up late watching this show because I really like it. And then we, trade that off for sleep. And, so everything seems good. Oh, I have my ways, but it's not until we actually sit down and then allow, that stress to be dissolved through the practice of meditation
Mm.
that we actually see how stressed we are.
Mm. Yeah.
Bit like sometimes, you can fill a bath and get in there and you get out and you're like, oh, the water looks a bit dirty. I'm not talking filthy, but you see
Yeah,
the
you're like,
difference
there
from
was
when
stuff on me. I didn't know that there was. Yeah.
before you got in
Yeah.
compared to the water, how it looks when you got out. It's different. You're
It
like, oh,
is. Yep. There's little bits that you
I
didn't
didn't
realize.
realize how maybe, oh, okay, that all came off me. Wow. What are we
Mm.
doing for our mind every day?
Yeah. And I think you mentioned I guess like that kind of got me thinking about people who think everything's okay. And I guess I'm thinking from a practitioner perspective when I've been working with patients, but I can see that their baseline for what's okay is actually not okay. Like I think of sometimes just to I guess in terms of stress, I know this is something that we really wanted to chat about is stress is that if we see stress on a scale of 0 to 10, 10 being super chill at the beach, having really relaxed, 10 being you're in peak stress. People's baseline, like where they wake up of a morning, could already be a 5 or a 6.
Mm.
And so they might be thinking, well, I'm not stressed because I'm not at my peak, but you're already functioning in a space of stress. So I think it can be difficult for people to see where they may need help or that the fact that they're not as calm as they could be because their sense of what is their normal has been adjusted to this kind of already triggered dysfunctional space. Do you kind of see that with people who may be a little bit resistant to meditation, where you're like, they have no idea that they're already operating at a 6 out of 10? Does that resonate with you in the meditation space?
Yeah, I guess it's like the average of anything,
Mm.
if the idea to take an average and to say that is normal,
Yeah,
also today it's not normal.
yeah. No.
For instance, in what you do, you would see blood test results and
Yeah.
gut biome test results. And I'm sure there's a normal range, but you would look a little more closely because I know, let's say, even with blood tests, that
Mm.
and the doctor calls you, oh, it's all good. But then I have someone else look at it a little more deeply. That's not normal. It's the normal because it's become the average of the population. And we are, as human beings, as individuals, a product of our environment. So if that person who's like, oh, already operating there and
Mm.
sees that they're okay, I bet you they're surrounded by others who think the same,
Yeah.
operate in the same way. And that's how we move in those circles.
Yeah. And that gets normalized. And so they don't see
Oh, it's all good. They're good, so I'm good. And
that makes total sense. And that, yeah, can obviously be why it can be hard to recognize. So tell us what is happening to us physiologically and chemically when we meditate?
lots of good things.
Yeah,
Release,
all positives.
release of GABA, that lovely GABA that we
Mm.
know about, serotonin, dopamine. There's essentially any feel-good hormone, even melatonin, starts to become balanced in that we can, use it more efficiently so we know when it's time to rest and our
Like
body.
more accessible in a way.
And then, yes, accessible and, then cortisol is reduced, but also used at the right time because we need some
Yep.
cortisol to do things and be of action.
Mm.
And actually, while I'm on that, I should say that, when we meditate, the biggest myth, I think, is that it's all about, sitting and having this little blissful time with our eyes closed. But in fact, we're doing that to influence, our 24/7
Mm.
open state,
Mm.
our everyday, right? So, the body then becomes, okay, we have this recalibrating happening, and then it's like, oh, I'll release this here. I know when to give you that energy when I need to. We can more easily rest when it's time to go to sleep,
Mm.
fall asleep, because I know that's a big issue is sleep and getting to sleep and having a good sleep, So chemically, all the good things,
Mm.
yeah, serotonin, melatonin, dopamine, GABA, um, they're all being released.
Yeah.
And for someone who starts meditating, sometimes at the start of their journey, you can see different experiences and feedback come. They'll be like, oh, all of a sudden I'm so tired.
Mm.
Why am I so tired? I've started meditating, but I'm really tired. Well, that is your body letting go of so much fatigue that you've been holding on to
Yeah.
without knowing it, that now your body's like, I need to rest more. So, yeah, you're going to need to rest a bit more. For others, it's almost instantly enlivening and like, whoa,
Mm.
just I see so much more of what's going on around me and how I'm reacting. And So there's so much depending on where that individual is,
Mm.
you know, is where those, the neurotransmitters and hormones, start to show in what they need to do, and what's going to happen first. But over time, it's a beautiful balancing and recalibrating of not only just neurotransmitters and those feel-good hormones, it's all the hormones.
Mm.
So
Mm.
it's balancing, um, even our circadian rhythm, once we
Yeah.
start to meditate, therefore, actually being hungry when we wake up, as
Mm.
opposed to that, we've heard it as like, oh, I'm not hungry till later. And that's another big thing now with fasting being so popular and such a hot
Yeah.
term, actually feeling the signs of, okay, I need to eat, or being aware of maybe that food is not good for me.
Mm. Mm.
So I know what I need to do here. Maybe I don't need that, or that is the point where, I say we become self-sufficient in knowing what we do need and what we don't need.
Yeah.
And, with meditation, that's a really, I call it a superpower, when we practice that, we get really good at knowing what we need
Yeah.
and when we need it. And
Yeah.
that's when all of our wonderful practitioners like yourself come in. Could be a naturopath, could be the kinesiologist, could be I need to see an acupuncturist and go to Chinese medicine or Ayurveda and help my body
Mm.
get to balance.
And I think that's really important. Like, obviously, there are so many things that are happening chemically and physiologically in our body. And I think you've even mentioned a few things that tie that back to gut health, just the sense of hunger cues, having more awareness about themselves. Because I find in my clinic, there can be people that have digestive issues, they don't have a sense of trust in themselves. They feel like their body is betraying them. They're scared. And I totally understand why that may be thought and felt. And this meditation can be a really helpful tool at helping support that sense of self-empowerment, intuition. I had a patient yesterday who, and I loved hearing this from her because she was kind of at a point where I knew that her gut was really getting better, and she took it upon herself to make a few changes with her diet. She's like, I actually don't need to have that smoothie every day anymore. I feel like I can have it, every second day or third day. Because for a point there, she was really, I guess, dependent on it in terms of making sure she had a really good bowel motion. And for this person, for them to come up with it on their own and just be like, I think this is what my body needs, that was so wonderful to hear. And I think, like, from what you're saying, is that meditation can help that sense of knowing your body. And that's what we want. We want to be able to feel and trust our body. Obviously, we want these other things, but I guess just related to gut health, we want to be able to feel and trust our body so then we know how to support ourselves best for whatever space and time and age that we're living in.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
I think that sounds like a really, it sounds like a very accessible tool. But I
Mm.
guess it's one thing to know about the benefits of meditation, and then it's another thing about choosing the type of meditation and choosing the one that's right for us. Because, you've heard it, we've spoken about it, people are like, I don't need it, or it didn't work for me, I find it really difficult. And there's lots of different types out there. So, what are some of the different types of meditation, and how can people figure out what's the right one for them?
So meditation really falls into, and any type of meditation will fall into one of three categories. There's your concentration type meditations where it will involve you maybe focusing on the breath or focusing on different parts of your body, so you're keeping the awareness, concentrating on something.
Hmm.
Contemplation is your meditations where, and there's great apps out there. I'll name one like Insight Timer.
Yeah.
I've got a couple on there too. It'd be a teacher talking to you, guiding you to contemplate on something, whether it's like, oh, I want to cultivate more abundance, and like, oh, I'll go and do that. Now, which is all well and good, but I'll get to why that can also be not so, I guess, impactful,
Hmm.
as we might think. So yes, good and very relaxing it will give you. We listen to someone talking to us about something, and of course we're going to become relaxed. We'll close our eyes. We'll have something to contemplate on, which is all well and good. And then we have the third type of meditation, which is transcending. Now, transcending, to break it down, the word transcend means to go beyond.
Mm.
In this instance, we're going beyond the thoughts of the mind. We're using a very effortless mantra meaning in this instance like a mind. So man comes from the word manas, which is your mind. So this is Sanskrit language that I'm referring to. And tra comes from the word for vehicle, right? So we're given this little seed, very short sound that is very powerful, that allows the mind to go beyond this thinking, very active, very busy level from which we, for most of us, respond to everything that's going on around us, to allow us to go beyond that and to allow then, and once the mind can rest, the body then relaxes. And we let go of what is the biggest, I would say, the epidemic of our time is stress.
Mm.
To let the body and the physiology let it go,
Yeah.
to dissolve it. It's like this is the biggest issue of the time. And this is why I am, I feel like I've become an agent of this technique.
Mm-hmm.
And so are so many more people. It's great to see how even here in Melbourne, where we are, like the amount of teachers that are out there now.
Yeah.
10 years ago when I learned is amazing. This is how that change is happening and there's a need for it. There's a big need. When there's a
Yeah.
need, there will be a call out, a response.
Yeah.
So this is the three types. Now, transcending, which is what Vedic meditation falls into.
Mm-hmm.
Also, if you've heard of transcendental meditation, it's the same practice, the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
I've also taught previously the being technique from One Giant Mind. So that's a way, that's same technique.
Mm-hmm.
Different things happen in the courses, but the I guess the overarching thing to know there again is transcend. We're going beyond the thoughts to allow the body to rest, to unravel all that
Mm.
stress, which is sitting in the way of us being able to respond to everything that's going on around us, whether it's our work, our own mind, our relationships, children, if you've got them, other family members, to respond in a way that's most evolutionary,
Yeah.
right?
And so, yeah, like how do people know what is what in terms of what to choose? Yeah, like I still think because people probably have dabbled, and I understand that I absolutely like when you've explained it, Michael, that makes sense as to why transcending meditation would be so powerful. So how do people, other than obviously you mentioned transcendental and Vedic, are there and being, is it being meditation? Yeah,
Being,
being, yeah. Are those the only ones that are out there? Like how do people choose that? And if they find that type difficult, should they try the others as a bit of a, I don't know, like a bit of a step into the world? Like, yeah.
yeah, look, it could be honestly anything. If you're putting out that intention, I'd like to meditate,
Mm.
and you've never done it, and you're listening today, and like, I just want to try something. Pick up, I would say the One Giant Mind app, open that up, it's
Hmm.
free. Go with that. That's a
Great.
great one to start with. I think it's the 12-day program.
Yeah.
That's free. You follow that. Or choose another app that you might like or already have. Start.
Yeah.
Depending on the individual and their circumstances, if someone is suffering severe anxiety, maybe even more so, I'm going to talk about to mental health symptoms,
Mm. Mm.
going straight into, and again, it's so individual and so
For sure.
but might not be the right time to learn Vedic meditation.
Yeah.
But there's ways to start cultivating, okay, just this time to rest.
Yeah.
And if anything, it's just choosing like, all right, I'm going to get up a little bit at 10 minutes earlier in the morning and sit down and, you know, pop in the earphones and listen to something. Great.
Yeah. It's just, I guess, as you said, that intention and building on that is probably the most, important thing you could be doing. And it might change over time, the type and the length of meditation, but the intention to meditate, it sounds like that's go with that. A bit of a
Most
gut
powerful
feeling there.
part.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, because look, I've had people come and learn because they heard, and again, Vedic meditation, transcendental, it's very widely practiced. It's the most studied technique in the world.
Hmm.
A lot of celebrities do it. It's been around for a long time. And so they hear it's like, oh, I'm gonna go do that. And they come to the course and then they don't do it. If you
Mm.
don't do it, we don't see the benefits. The same way as if we go to the gym once a month,
Yeah.
nothing's going to happen. We go to yoga once a month. You're not going to see any shifts in how you
Yeah.
feel or how your body feels. If you eat crap, for 90% of the month and eat good for 10%, that's not going to help.
Yeah. Shifts are going to be minimal to not.
Yeah.
So I guess like you've kind of touched on something. I just want to, I guess, get your opinion on what the research says or your experience is. So how often do we need to meditate to feel the benefits? And I guess the second kind of third part to that is how long do our meditation sessions have to be? And the timing of them. Like, does it have to be morning and afternoon? Can it be micro meditations? I know that, again, there are so many different types of meditations and where people might be in their meditation journey or their practice. But I guess from what you know about meditation, what is the answer to the hows and whens and how often and how longs do we need to meditate?
Yeah. Well, again, this is like, oh, it's a little bit like, how long is a piece of string?
Yeah.
It's how to quantify that. Only I have my direct experience
Mm.
and that of my students and my friends around me, or pretty much all of whom, practice a transcending technique. So this is the one I have to give the most feedback on.
Yeah, we'll speak to that.
So that is a 20-minute twice a day practice.
Yep.
The reason being, why is it 20 minutes? Because again, your listeners might be like, oh my gosh, so what? That's 40 minutes a day.
Mm.
Where on earth do I find 40 minutes?
Yeah.
And if you're saying that, then I'm thinking you really need to find the 40 minutes.
Yep.
And we actually have, if you want to break that down, in 24 hours, there's 72 20-minute pieces of pie. If it was our day was a piece of pie, so
Hmm.
it's asking to dedicate two of those pieces of pie to meditation.
Mm.
But be consistent. I mean, it is cultivating our awareness is like a muscle. If we don't tend to it,
Yeah.
it's not going to get stronger.
Yeah.
It's not going to grow. Awareness, unlike a physical muscle, it has no end into, how big and expansive it can be.
Mm.
So these transcending techniques like Vedic meditation, they're 20 minutes twice a day because we're looking to create a rhythm really of where we close our eyes to get that rest and right, we're back. Like, all right, I'm back home
Yep.
in my eyes and I can be the best and most optimized version of me for everything around me that I really love to do and relate to, or who I love to relate to.
Mm.
This is why we're doing it.
Yeah.
20 minutes
Absolutely.
is the most sufficient. It has been, obviously tested many, many thousands of years ago. And along the way, that 20 minutes is just the sweet spot time for the body
Mm.
to really settle into that parasympathetic state,
Mm.
to be able to let go of whatever the physiology has been holding on to. The reason it becomes twice a day is we begin to make away with residual stress.
Mm.
empowering. I mean, there's demands of our day, everything we do in a day, and just living in the modern world.
Yeah.
Screens, phones, the constant news cycle and barrage of information we're taking on.
Yeah.
I think if we went even back 50 years, it's something only like 5% or less in terms of the amount of information you would,
Yeah.
and physiologically, we're really no different.
No, no, we're not, we're certainly not.
100 years, whoa, massive, but the bodies, our bodies,
Yeah.
still want to be operating, in the most primal, instinctual, intuitive way.
Mm.
And so that second meditation, and if anyone's learnt Vedic and they're like, oh yeah, I always skip that one, it's funny. It's afternoon, and they're like, oh, it's because it's the most impactful. It's where your meditation, it's not double as good, it just skyrockets.
Wow.
Of the impact on your awareness and on the
Mm.
state of your physiology, we are really doing something amazing. And that's
Yeah.
why when we teach, it is a 20-minute twice a day practice. But again, if someone starts and we're like, right, start with that one a day. If you, okay, let's go there. But I'm going to keep, dangling the carrot for you a little bit, saying,
Yep.
giving you a little bit of knowledge as to why, and then maybe the more you start having a go at doing it, you go, oh yes, I feel the difference.
And I think as someone who meditates as well, and I will admit at the moment I'm only doing one a day, and I'm like, I need to do twice a day. Like, or immediately I'm like, sold. It's a twice a day for me. So maybe this was the conversation I needed to have. This was the right time and place and person. I think what you mentioned about helping that parasympathetic state for anyone that's got any issues, especially gut, like that's often the thing that we're talking about is that we're not in the parasympathetic, the rest and digest. Literally, it's called rest and digest. So we want to be in this space as much as we can, and we're so often pulled out of it into the sympathetic space. So if we can dedicate 20 minutes twice a day, and again, might be the goal, it may not be the entry point into meditation. If that can be the thing that keeps your nervous system, plus all the other benefits in check, isn't that wonderful that we can do that with a daily practice? And I know people are thinking, well, can't a supplement or can't a herb do this? And it really can't. Like there's episodes that haven't come out yet, but there's been lots of the same I guess statements and lines being said that we can't out supplement a dysregulated nervous system. So yes, we can use these things in addition to, but the daily practices and the lifestyle, and this is why we're talking about meditation, is so important because these are the sustainable foundations that we could be doing, and they're free. Once you've learnt it, it's a free practice. How good's that? We can manage our nervous system for free.
Tool for life.
Yeah,
And
for
as
life.
Rach, like as Vedic meditation teachers, we are here. I feel like we're somewhat life coach as well. It's
Mhm.
it's a real investment into a support system for life.
Yeah,
A system
that's
for life. Like we show up for our students every week, come in because this is talking about what's actually going on in life
mhm,
and unraveling that, because as you change and your awareness grows and shifts and you're like noticing more and things are happening in your life, and all of a
mm,
sudden, oh my gosh, I don't want to even do that as a job anymore. I don't, that's not me. And or wherever I live, and all these things become more apparent.
mm.
We need that support.
And I would actually admit that in terms of those realizations, it was meditation that made me bite the bullet to do the podcast. I was like, why haven't I bloody done it yet? It is something which I'm yearning to do. Like it was like this level of resistance and this level of I'm ready and I'm open and I guess I just had all the right feelings in place where I was like, oh, like that was kind of like there was a barrier. I didn't know that was there that was stopping me. And it was through my practice, which I was like, I've got to do it. That's just one example. Like, as you said, it could be a change of job or it could be something else that someone is now having more awareness around and they're understanding, they're feeling a sense of, I can do this and feeling more empowered to do that. But yeah, the podcast probably wouldn't be here without it in a way.
Yeah. See, something was, born there from that
Mm,
part of you that you got in contact with because you had that space to rest.
yeah.
The space then was cultivated so you could hear, oh, yes, that little nudging, like, hey, Rach, do a podcast. And then it gets really loud and you can't ignore it anymore. And boom, it happens. And this is how we see changes happen in people's life when they
Yeah.
actually start devoting time to themselves
Mm,
every day. Amazing things happen.
mm,
I say, yeah,
absolutely.
it's the 20 minutes at twice a day, especially that if you do it, will change your life.
Yeah. I'm excited for everyone who's about to start meditating. And I guess that brings me to my next question. So if someone is about to start, what would be something that you'd recommend to them? But also, I guess, highlight any issues or pitfalls that people have to kind of just stop doing it. Like, how do people start and keep going with their practice?
Yeah. Look, I'm gonna say for whoever's listening, if you're really now like, oh, I want to do this, find a teacher.
Hmm.
Vedic meditations teachers generally teach in person. It's ideal to be taught in person. So find one near you and go and sign up and do it.
Mm,
It's my best advice. If you're of the like, oh, it sounds, I think there's a lot of misconception as well around the word Vedic, and people think it's something advanced. It's not. It's so effortless. It's actually called the householder technique because it was made for people like you and I, people who are working, people who have families, people, especially in this day and age, it's been made easy enough to do.
mm.
So I want to kind of dispel any maybe notions of that it's something advanced.
Yeah,
Hence, this is for everybody. If you
it's
have a mind and
accessible.
you're breathing, find a
You can
teacher.
do this.
They will give you their full support. If that sounds too much for now, you know, download a free app
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
and just start.
I think that is such good advice because a meditation can be intimidating for some people. I hope that, we've shown that it doesn't have to be intimidating and that the entry points and where you're at and your intention to meditate is where you need to be and work with that and use that and grow your practice. And I guess as someone who has been doing it for so long, what how have you continued it for so long? What is your hack for doing that? Is it just now that you're addicted and you've kind of seen the results, you're like, I can't imagine my life any different? Like, how can someone really keep this practice going and make it a part of their lifestyle?
Yeah. Well, at the start, it is harder. And I'll
Mm,
say harder in the sense that it's like if you think back to when you learnt to drive, it's
mm.
probably a bit of a mess and very overwhelming and like, oh my gosh, like I've got a gear stick, maybe not so much these days, but
Yeah. There's cars on the
yeah,
road or there's stop
clutch, there's
signs. Yeah.
a car behind me. I'm on a hill. Oh my God. And it's like your mind is like just firing
Yeah.
and it takes a lot of effort. Similar in the way when you start something like, oh, all of a sudden you never meditated, you go to a course, and then you're like, okay, I've got to do this. I want to do this every day. It takes effort to be able to devote that time to remember. Some just forget. They're like, oh my gosh, I forget.
It's
Okay,
12
well,
o'clock.
that's okay. An alarm. Or, you make it part of your new morning routine. And I'm going to
Yeah.
get up a bit earlier
Mm,
and I'm going to come to group meditations. This is why teachers do these, because especially with transcending techniques, we run these sessions every single week online as that point of check-in, because then
mm,
okay, maybe you did it for a week or two and then life happened. That happens. This is why we call it a practice.
mm,
And we're forever, I'm a student, we are all students. No matter how long you've been doing this, the power comes in coming back.
mm,
Come back. I'll go online to the group meditation. I'll meditate and feel again what that feels like.
Mm.
And I'll start
Mm.
again in the morning, I'll do it. And it's keeping, a close community, because we're a product of the people and the supports we keep around us.
Yeah.
If you keep then, if you decide to learn Vedic meditation, you keep your teacher close and a community, and maybe someone else around you, a good friend or your partner starts as well. That's great because you can keep each other accountable. Bit
Mm.
like, I'm going to see you at the gym in the morning. Yes,
Yeah.
great. We know that we're way more likely to turn up.
There's
And
accountability.
yeah, you know, so it could be even a housemate or whoever, partner, sit down, like, oh, we're going to do it together every day.
Mm.
Better. Uh, so keeping that, community around you, that support. If you go and learn with a teacher, make use of, then the ongoing support they offer you. That's why it's there.
Yeah.
It's integral to be able to build then it will become a habit. We
Mm.
know there's many schools of thought of 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, 120 days to create a habit. Whatever it is, you can even set yourself your own challenge. Okay, 2 months, I'm just going to tick off, I'm going to have almost like a scorecard for myself and I'm going to tick them off.
Yep.
That's the way, that's something that motivates you.
Yep.
There's lots of little ways like that. But the most important thing, like I touched on earlier, if life happens and your practice falls away, very often it happens. I've spoken to some of my students where they'll say something pretty awful is going on in family and
Mm.
extra stress, and it's funny that often the meditation falls.
Mm.
But they
That's
will
like,
also be very aware and say, I know that it's the most helpful thing,
yes.
but it happens.
Yeah.
Okay? Because we're human beings, we get, pulled in that direction of, oh, that's things happen and everything falls away. But again, the power is I'm going to decide to come back and start
Mm.
again. I'm coming back and starting again.
So it's the decision to come back, and that's what keeps it going. And I
Like
think,
some
yeah.
people do cold showers,
Yeah.
that kind of thing.
Yeah.
They say the most, I guess, pivotal moment in that is the decision to flick the tap to cold.
Yeah.
Not actually the cold water. It's that decision to going from my now warm shower to cold. And
Yeah.
doing that is where you are flexing that real muscle of, okay, I can do this and I'm coming.
Mm. Mm.
Meditation's nothing like cold showers.
Yeah. Like, don't end it on that note. It it's like a warm shower. No.
No, in that moment, you're like, oh, do I flick? Oh, no, I keep enjoying my warm shower. But meditation is like a warm shower and a hug all the time.
Not a cold shower.
Yeah.
Tash, that was amazing. And as like I have also just been reminded as to, why maybe my practice should be a 2 day, not a one a day meditation practice. And we've shared about how it's changed our lives. And I hope people listening to this, gut health or otherwise, see how it can benefit them and how it's not intimidating and how an entry point and an intention is what they need to start with. It can grow and develop as you do, but I think that we've made this accessible, and meditation is like a warm shower. Remember, everybody, it's not the cold shower.
Yes,
So we like warm showers.
yeah.
So thank you
Didn't
so
expect to
much.
bring that up, but yes, there we are. A warm shower. Nice.
That was a very good, I think that made a lot of sense in terms of that split decision as to like, will I do this or won't? I think that made sense, but just to reiterate, it's a warm shower vibe we're getting with meditation. So thank you so much, Tash. It's been a pleasure having you here.
So nice to talk with you, Rach. Thank you.
Thanks for tuning into Gutsy Talks. I hope today's episode left you feeling inspired to take the next step in your gut health journey. If you're ready to dive deeper, head over to rachellarson.com.au. There's a range of courses and resources waiting for you. If you loved this episode, I'd be so grateful if you shared it with others who might benefit from this information. And so you don't miss out on future Gutsy Talks, be sure to hit follow and leave a review. I'd love to hear your feedback. I'm Rachel Larson, and I can't wait to connect with you again for our next Gutsy Talk.